The stars were quiet that night, shining like cold eyes in the endless dark. Space stretched in all directions, empty and silent, except for a single human vessel gliding through the void. Its hull reflected faint silver light, and its engines whispered softly as it moved across the starfield. The ship looked alone, small, and vulnerable, like prey wandering into the hunting grounds of predators. The crew inside spoke little. They were focused, their faces calm, but their silence carried weight. Every one of them knew that this region of space was dangerous. It was a place whispered about in fleets, a place where ships vanished and never returned. The humans had been warned, yet they still came. The question hung heavy: why? The answer was known only to the captain, and he stared out at the darkness like a man waiting for something inevitable. Far away, hidden behind drifting rocks and dead moons, another presence watched. Alien ships crouched in silence, their hulls black, their weapons armed, their captains ready. Dozens of war vessels formed a net around the human ship, silent predators waiting for the right moment. The aliens had studied humans before. They had fought them in skirmishes and seen them break when numbers turned against them. To the alien commander, this was nothing but a hunt, and the prey had stepped into the trap without even knowing. The alien fleet carried confidence like a second skin. Their ambush was perfect. Their timing was precise. The humans, they believed, had no chance. The alien commander leaned forward in his command chair, cold eyes narrowing. "Hold positions. Wait until they cross the line," he ordered. Around him, the crew hissed with excitement. Soon the prey would enter the kill zone, and the first strike would crush them completely. They imagined human cries of fear, desperate signals for surrender, the begging that always followed before destruction. They imagined victory, easy and glorious. Yet on the human ship, the atmosphere was very different. The captain stood in the center of the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back. His officers watched the screens, showing empty space, but their eyes flicked to the captain now and then. He did not look nervous. His voice, when he finally spoke, was calm and even. "Steady course. Do not change speed." The words puzzled the junior officers. They could not understand why they were here, why they traveled through hostile space with no escort, no fleet, no backup. It looked reckless, maybe even suicidal. But none dared question. They knew their captain well. He never moved without reason. Hours passed in silence, the ship drifting closer and closer to the unseen noose tightening around them. The alien ships grew restless. They had never seen prey move like this, so calm, so steady, as if unaware of danger. Usually, humans sent escorts, or at least changed course when near hostile sectors. But this ship showed no fear. The alien commander grew impatient. "Prepare to strike," he ordered. Weapons locked, engines primed. The moment had come. The human ship glided across the invisible line, into the heart of the trap. Suddenly, the darkness erupted. Alien ships burst from hiding, engines flaring, weapons glowing with deadly light. The ambush had begun. The alien commander's mouth curled into a grin. The prey had no chance now. On the human ship, alarms flashed. The crew stiffened, fingers ready on controls. Dozens of enemy signals filled the screen, closing fast. For a moment, it looked like certain death. Yet the captain only smiled faintly, a smile that confused his crew. "They have come," he said softly, almost like he expected this. "All of them." His words sent a chill across the bridge. The ambush was no surprise to him. He knew. He had always known. The aliens fired first. Beams of light slashed through the void, striking the human vessel. Shields flared under impact, shaking the ship violently, but they held. The bridge trembled, sparks flying from panels. Still the crew obeyed, holding their positions, eyes fixed on the captain. He raised a hand, calm as stone. "Do not return fire yet," he ordered. Confusion spread among the officers. Enemy fire rained down, explosions echoed through the hull, but the order was clear: wait. Outside, the alien commander watched with satisfaction. "They are breaking," he hissed. Soon they will cry for mercy. But inside the human ship, the crew began to notice something strange. Despite the heavy fire, their systems were stable. Their shields, though glowing under impact, did not weaken as expected. Damage reports showed nothing fatal. It was as if the ship was built to endure this storm. The captain's voice rang out once more. They think we are prey. They think we are weak. But tonight, we turn the trap. His officers exchanged glances, eyes wide. None dared to ask questions. Their captain's confidence was unshaken. The alien fleet closed tighter, ready for the final strike, eager to deliver the killing blow. Yet none of them realized that the prey they had cornered was not prey at all. Something was waiting, hidden deep inside the human ship, silent and unseen. A secret they had not expected. And when it awoke, the hunters would learn the truth. The trap was never theirs. It was ours. The first shot shook the stars. Bright lances of energy streaked across the void, smashing against the human vessel shields, filling the darkness with blinding flashes. The alien fleet opened fire all at once, a storm of destruction tearing through space, beams and missiles crossing in deadly patterns. From a distance, it looked like the human ship had been swallowed by fire. The alien commander's chest swelled with pride as he watched the furious storm. In his mind, the battle was already over. No ship, no matter how strong, could stand against so many weapons. He leaned forward and hissed, "Increase the pressure. Do not give them time to think. Break their shields. Break their spirit." Around him, his officers obeyed, their voices sharp, their claws tapping on consoles as more weapons locked on target. The humans should have been panicking by now. They should have been sending distress calls, begging for aid, or shouting for surrender. Yet nothing came. The human ship glided steadily, holding its line, battered by fire but not broken. Inside the bridge, sparks rained from panels, lights flickered, alarms screamed warnings, yet the crew sat firm. Some clenched their jaws, others tightened their fists, but none lost control. The captain's voice was steady, even soft. "Hold the line. Not yet. Let them come closer." His eyes scanned the battle, calculating, waiting, like a predator hiding its claws until the right moment. Officers exchanged nervous glances. The ship was under heavy attack, shields glowing with strain, systems running hot. Waiting felt like madness. But they trusted their captain. They had seen him fight before, and he had never been wrong. The alien commander watched with growing curiosity. The prey was not acting like prey. They were not breaking. They were not running. The commander's grin faltered, but he pushed the thought away. "More fire. Tear them apart," he roared. Outside, alien ships circled like wolves, each attack timed to overlap, forcing the human shields to bend under relentless force. The human vessel rocked again and again, but still it did not fall. Deep inside the human ship, systems hummed with quiet power. Hidden circuits activated, unseen by the enemy. Strange signals began to flow, silent, invisible, like whispers in the void. They spread out, brushing against alien sensors, passing into their systems without warning. Alien targeting reticles blinked for a moment. Their weapons flickered, some firing late, some firing too soon. Crews shouted in confusion, recalibrating, blaming technical faults, unaware that something unseen had touched their machines. On the human bridge, the captain gave the faintest smile. "They do not understand," he murmured. "But they will." Another wave of enemy fire came, and again the human ship held firm. A young officer finally spoke, her voice low but steady. "Captain, why are we not firing back?" The question hung in the air, the only thing heavier than the storm outside. The captain turned his head slightly, his eyes hard and calm. "Because every hunter reveals himself when he strikes. Let them reveal everything first. Only then do we answer." The officer nodded, though her chest still tightened with fear. Waiting under fire was the hardest thing any soldier could do. It felt unnatural, unbearable, but discipline kept them still. Outside, The alien commander narrowed his eyes. Something was wrong. The prey was not crumbling. Shields were holding longer than expected. Casualties should have been mounting, but scans showed minimal damage. Impossible, he muttered. His officers hissed nervously, unsure whether to question their leader. He slammed his fist down. Press harder. Close the circle. Crush them now. Alien ships tightened formation, drawing in closer, spears of energy converging, missile trails streaking like burning comets. The human vessel seemed engulfed, swallowed by explosions, vanishing in smoke and light. Some alien officers began to cheer, thinking the ship destroyed. But as the smoke cleared, the human ship emerged, shields flaring bright but hull intact. Still alive. Still steady. Still calm. The alien commander's grin died completely. For the first time, a shadow of doubt crept into his mind. Inside the human vessel, the crew stared at the screens, awe mixed with fear. They had survived another wave. Systems still held. And their captain still had not given the order to fire. The tension was unbearable. They could feel the weight of the enemy pressing down, the circle closing, the storm growing. Every second stretched into eternity. Then the captain spoke again, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. They think this is their first strike. But they do not know. The first strike has not been ours yet. His officers stiffened, hearts pounding. Something was about to change. He lifted his hand slowly, eyes fixed on the tightening circle of alien ships. His voice dropped to a whisper, but it carried across the bridge with deadly clarity. Now, we strike. The captain's hand hovered for a moment in the tense silence of the bridge, and then it dropped sharply like a blade. At once the human ship came alive. Hidden panels slid open across the hull, revealing weapons that had not been seen before. From the outside it had looked like a simple transport, or at best a lightly armed patrol vessel. But now its skin shifted like a beast shedding its disguise. Cannons extended, missile bays unlocked, and strange arrays of glowing emitters powered on with a hum that resonated across the void. The alien fleet, tightening their circle with full confidence, suddenly hesitated. Their sensors blinked in confusion as they detected power spikes that should not exist on a ship of this size. Impossible, one alien officer hissed, staring at his screen. They were unarmed. They were weak. But the human ship was no longer weak. Its systems surged with energy, and strange signals pulsed outward like waves. Invisible fingers reached into enemy ships, crawling into their targeting systems, whispering lies into their machines. Alien gunners cursed as their weapons refused to lock, their beams missing by fractions, their missiles drifting off course. The alien commander slammed his fist on his chair and shouted, "Stabilize! Fire again!" But his own systems flickered, warning signs flashing red. It was as if the human ship was inside their computers, bending them to its will. On the human bridge, the crew felt the sudden shift. Screens that had been filled with alarms now showed the enemy stumbling. Red targeting icons turned green, enemy shields exposed, firing solutions clear. The captain's voice rang steady. "Now we answer." A thunderous volley erupted from the human ship, beams of focused light slicing through the void, slamming into the nearest alien cruiser. The enemy ship shuddered violently, its shields collapsing under the unexpected force, its hull splitting in molten fire. One strike, one kill. The bridge crew gasped, their fear replaced with fierce determination. They had waited, suffered under the storm, and now they were unleashed. More weapons fired, precise and calculated, not wasted in panic but aimed like a surgeon's blade. Another alien ship exploded, then another, the circle breaking apart as fire lit the void. The alien commander's eyes widened, shock tearing through his pride. How is this possible?" he hissed. He had expected surrender, weakness, terror, but instead the humans fought with terrifying precision. Every shot was a message. They had been waiting for this moment, they had planned for this ambush, and they were not prey. He barked orders, voice sharp with fear disguised as anger. "Spread the fleet. Do not let them control our systems. Break formation." His ships scattered, trying to escape the invisible net of interference. But the human ship was already inside their rhythm, already dictating the flow of battle. Every move the aliens made was predicted, countered, punished. Inside the human vessel, the crew felt power rushing through them. The fear that had gripped their hearts was gone, replaced by the thrill of fighting back, of striking with strength. Officers called out targets, weapons fired in rhythm, and the captain stood unshaken at the center, his eyes cold and unblinking. "Do not waste fire," he commanded. "Every shot must count." And every shot did. Alien ships burned one by one, their screams echoing through broken comms. The galaxy had told them humans would bow, that humans were fragile, but this ship showed otherwise. It showed teeth, sharp and merciless. Yet even as victories mounted, the battle was far from over. The alien fleet was vast, their numbers overwhelming, and though their confidence wavered, desperation gave them new fury. They regrouped, launching fresh waves of fighters, swarms of small craft darting like angry hornets. The human crew braced as screens lit with dozens of new threats. The captain's eyes narrowed. "So they reveal their claws at last," he murmured. "Then we will show them ours." Another command left his lips, quiet but firm. Systems deep within the human vessel powered up, weapons not yet seen, something the aliens could not have imagined. For the first time since the ambush began, the hunters realized they might be the ones hunted. The alien commander watched in disbelief as his ships fell one after another, explosions painting the dark with fire, their wrecks drifting like burning skeletons in the void. What had begun as a flawless ambush was crumbling into a nightmare, and the prey that was supposed to beg for mercy was now tearing into them with merciless precision. His officers hissed in panic, their hands scrambling across consoles, but nothing they did seemed to work. Their targeting systems flickered, their missiles lost guidance, and every attempt to regroup ended with another ship ripped apart by human fire. The commander's chest tightened with rage and fear, emotions he had never felt together before. "How are they doing this?" he demanded, but no one had an answer. Across the battlefield, the human ship glided like a predator among startled prey. Every shot it fired was exact, every movement calculated, as if the humans knew the enemy's plans before they were made. On the human bridge, the captain's expression remained stone cold, his eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding around him. His crew, who once sat with fear in their chests, now moved with sharp discipline, their voices steady as they called out targets and confirmed kills. They no longer felt like prey. They felt like hunters, and their confidence grew with every alien vessel that burst into fire. Yet the aliens still had numbers on their side. More ships pushed forward, larger warcruisers entering the fray, their heavy cannons glowing with lethal power. The alien commander roared the order. "Bring everything to bear. Overwhelm them. They cannot stand against all of us." His fleet obeyed, and a storm of energy erupted across the void, far stronger than before. The human ship trembled under the renewed assault, shields flaring bright, decks rattling as impacts hammered the hull. Sparks fell like rain across the bridge, smoke curling from broken panels, but still the captain stood unmoved. His voice cut through the alarms like steel. "Hold steady. Do not lose rhythm. Aim. Fire." His crew obeyed, returning fire with calm focus, their shots still finding weaknesses in the enemy line. Another alien cruiser split apart, a burning wound spilling debris into space. The alien commander's fury only deepened. He leaned forward, his voice a snarl. "They should be broken. They should be dust. Why do they not fall?" For the first time, doubt began to creep into the hearts of his soldiers. They had always believed humans were fragile, weak compared to their kind, but now that belief was shattering like glass. Every strike that failed, every comrade destroyed, chipped away at the certainty they carried. Fear spread like a shadow through their fleet. The commander sensed it, his own pride trembling, but he fought to crush it. "They are only one ship," he shouted. "One ship cannot defeat us." His words echoed through comms, but they rang hollow, for even as he spoke another of his vessels exploded in fire. On the human side, the captain watched with silent satisfaction. He knew what was happening. The enemy's confidence, the weapon they always relied on, was breaking. He had studied them, learned their psychology, their arrogance, and now he watched as it turned against them. "They are beginning to doubt," he said quietly to his officers. "When doubt takes root, victory follows." His crew understood. They could feel the shift in the battle. Every alien mistake, every hesitation, every second wasted was another opening, and the humans exploited them all. But the enemy was not finished yet. Desperation drove them harder than confidence ever had. The commander rallied what remained of his fleet, pulling his strongest ships into a wedge formation, aiming to pierce through the human vessel with brute force. "Crush them now," he roared. Engines flared, weapons charged, and the wedge surged forward like a spear. The human crew braced, but the captain only raised his hand and whispered, "Let them come." The void shook as the wedge closed in, beams ripping across space, missiles screaming through the darkness. The human ship fired back, destroying some, but the spear kept driving, faster, closer, unstoppable. The bridge shook violently, lights dimming, consoles sparking. For the first time, the crew felt the weight of danger pressing hard, and fear flickered in their eyes. But the captain did not flinch. His voice was iron. "Do not fear. Their confidence is shattered. Desperation is all that remains." As if to prove his words, cracks appeared in the alien wedge. Coordination faltered, ships collided under panic, and precision fell apart. The humans struck those weaknesses without mercy, blasting holes into the spear, turning its strength against itself. One by one, the wedge broke apart, ships scattering, their formation lost. The alien commander slammed his fist in rage, his pride torn to shreds. "How can one ship do this to us?" he howled. But in the silence of his bridge, he felt the truth he did not want to admit. It was not just one ship. It was humanity itself, and tonight they had shown him a truth that shattered his confidence completely. Humans did not break. Humans endured. Humans fought back. And in that moment, he realized with horror that the hunters had become the hunted. The battlefield burned with wreckage, alien ships drifting in flames, the void littered with broken hulls and fading lights, and yet the human vessel still stood unbroken, its guns still alive, its shields still burning bright against the storm. The alien commander gripped the arms of his chair so hard that his claws dug into the metal, his pride bleeding with every loss. But worse than the wrecks scattered across space was the silence creeping into his fleet. Fear had begun to spread like a disease, quiet at first, then louder, until it filled every channel with whispered doubts. Crews muttered to each other in panic, officers shouted to restore order, but their voices carried no confidence anymore. They had come expecting easy prey, a quick surrender, but now they faced something beyond their understanding. Some ships faltered in formation, their captains hesitating, afraid to move closer, afraid to expose themselves to the terrible precision of human fire. Others whispered of retreat, of fleeing while there was still a chance, their courage shattered, their minds filled with the image of humans who refused to fall. The alien commander felt that fear pressing on him too, a heavy weight he had never known in battle. He had fought many enemies, crushed countless fleets, but none had resisted like this, none had turned an ambush into slaughter with such calm fury. He snarled, trying to mask his own dread, barking orders with a voice that shook more than he wanted to admit. "Hold the line. Push forward. They are only one ship." But even as he spoke, his words rang false in his own ears. It no longer felt like one ship. It felt like something greater, something ancient, as if all of humanity's spirit was carried in that single vessel, refusing to bow, refusing to break. On the human bridge, the captain saw the cracks in the enemy resolve. He saw ships hesitate, saw formations collapse, and he knew the enemy's greatest weapon was gone. Fear had taken their confidence, and with fear came weakness. His voice was steady as he commanded, "Press them. Show them no mercy. Let their fear consume them." The crew obeyed with fierce determination, striking the hesitant ships first, their weapons tearing through enemies too slow to react, too shaken to defend. One by one, more ships exploded, and each destruction sent a deeper wave of terror through the alien ranks. The whispers of retreat grew louder, some captains already turning their vessels away, breaking from the fight. The commander roared in fury. "Cowards! Stand and fight. Any who flee will be executed." But even his threats could not crush the fear, for fear is stronger than pride, stronger than orders, stronger than discipline. The galaxy had always believed humans would surrender when pressed, but now these aliens saw the truth, and it terrified them. The humans did not surrender. They endured storms, they endured pain, and when the time came, they struck with fury that no enemy could match. The alien commander's heart pounded in his chest, his thoughts racing with questions he had never dared to ask. How much had humanity grown? How much had they hidden from the galaxy? Was this ship an accident of war, or was every human vessel this deadly, this unyielding? For the first time in his long life of conquest, he wondered if his kind had made a fatal mistake. His fleet had believed they were hunters, but now they were prey, and the humans were showing their teeth. On the human ship, the captain sensed the moment. He turned to his officers, his eyes hard as steel. "They are afraid. Strike harder. Let them know fear has no place to hide." Weapons roared, beams lancing through the void, cutting down retreating ships, destroying those still brave enough to fight. Alien comms filled with screams and broken signals, captains begging for orders, soldiers crying out as their vessels died. Fear had become panic, and panic had become collapse. The commander's own ship trembled under impact, his crew shouting in terror, their hands slipping on consoles. He shouted for control, but the fear in their eyes told him the truth. The battle was lost. They no longer looked to him as a leader, they looked to him as the reason they were dying. He felt the weight of failure pressing down, heavier than any weapon. Yet still, he could not retreat, for his pride chained him to the fight. But deep inside, he felt what his crew already knew. This was no longer a battle. This was a hunt, and they were the hunted. The alien commander's ship shook again as another blast tore across its shields, and his heart pounded with a fear he tried to bury under rage. But fear was stronger now. Fear was spreading across every ship in his fleet, eating away at discipline and courage. He had thought the humans would break, he had thought they would beg for mercy, but instead the humans stood like iron, turning the ambush into slaughter, cutting down his vessels with terrifying precision. Still, he told himself, they had numbers, they had strength, they could overwhelm one ship no matter how dangerous it was. But as his fleet scrambled, trying to regroup, trying to strike together, the void itself began to shimmer. At first it looked like a distortion in space, like a trick of light, but then the shadows peeled back, and new shapes emerged. One by one, massive human warships decloaked, their hulls glinting silver under starlight, their engines burning with quiet fury. They had been there the entire time, waiting, hidden, watching. The alien commander froze, his blood running cold as he realized the truth. The lone human vessel had never been prey, it had been bait, a lure to draw his fleet into the jaws of something far greater. He whispered the word without meaning to, his voice trembling. "A trap!" Across the battlefield, his officers gasped as sensors lit up with dozens of new contacts, each human ship armed, each one ready, their weapons already aimed at alien throats. Panic erupted through his fleet. Some captains shouted for retreat, others for attack, but their voices clashed in chaos, no longer united, no longer certain. The alien commander tried to shout over them, tried to restore order, but even his voice broke under the weight of what they saw. The humans had not only endured the ambush, they had turned it inside out, and now the hunters were surrounded. On the human bridge, the captain stood calm, his eyes sharp as he looked at the unfolding scene. "They believed we were alone," he said, his voice carrying quiet satisfaction. "Now they will learn that humanity never fights alone." His crew watched with awe as the hidden fleet spread across the stars, ships of every class forming a wall of steel and fire. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, all emerging from the cloak, all locking weapons on the panicked enemy. The alien commander shouted desperately, "Form ranks! Do not break! We can still," but his words died as the first volley came. The human fleet fired as one, a storm of light tearing across space, beams and missiles slamming into alien ships with crushing force. Vessels exploded in chains of fire, formations shattered, screams filled the comms. Fear turned to terror, and terror turned to chaos. Some alien ships fled without orders, engines burning as they tried to escape the net, but the humans were ready. Interceptor wings broke free from their carriers, cutting off escape routes, hunting down stragglers with merciless precision. Others tried to fight, but their weapons were no match for the overwhelming firepower now arrayed against them. Ship after ship died, each destruction shaking the alien commander's chest with a pain deeper than any wound. He had lost control. He had lost everything. On the human side, the captain gave no mercy. Press the attack. Do not let them regroup. Make them remember this day. His fleet obeyed, striking without hesitation, turning panic into total collapse. Alien crews cried out in fear, their voices spilling into open channels, begging for orders, begging for survival, but no orders could save them now. The trap was complete. The commander gripped his chair, his claws trembling, his pride shattering. Never in his life had he imagined defeat like this. Never had he believed prey could become predator, weak could become strong, hunted could become hunter. His fleet was not just losing, it was being annihilated. And as another explosion rocked his ship, he realized a truth more terrifying than death. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and now it would pay the price. The void was no longer dark but lit by fire, wrecks of alien ships drifting in silence, explosions rippling like storms across the battlefield, and yet the humans kept pressing forward without pause, without hesitation, every movement sharp, every strike exact, as if the battle was already decided and they were only carrying out the sentence. The alien commander stared at his collapsing fleet with wide eyes, his mind drowning in disbelief. His perfect ambush had become his destruction, his prey had become predator, and worst of all, the humans fought with a precision that terrified him. It was not rage, not chaos, not desperation, it was cold calculation, each shot deliberate, each target chosen, each strike leaving nothing wasted. They fought like a machine, but a machine with a heart of iron and will of fire, and that made them more dangerous than anything he had ever faced. Around him his officers shouted warnings, their voices broken with panic as ship after ship vanished from their screens, but even their cries sounded hollow, for none of them believed they could win anymore. Fear had become despair, and despair had turned into silence. Many crews no longer obeyed orders, their hands shaking, their eyes staring blankly at screens filled with death. Some ships barely fired back at all, their captains too consumed by hopelessness. The commander roared at them, cursing their cowardice, demanding they fight, but deep inside he knew the truth. No amount of courage could match the precision of this human fleet. Every time his ships regrouped, the humans broke them apart. Every time he tried a new tactic, the humans already had a counter, as if they could see his mind before he acted. He had faced many enemies before, but none had fought like this. It was as if the humans had studied his every move, learned his every weakness, and were now writing the final chapter of his fleet with merciless hands. On the human bridge, the captain stood calm as ever, his voice steady as he gave orders. Target the heavy cruisers first. Break their backbone. Leave the small ones for later. His crew moved like parts of a single body, every command answered instantly, every weapon firing with deadly rhythm. Alien cruisers tried to rally, their guns blazing with desperate energy, but their shots went wide, their systems still scrambled by human interference. The humans fired back, and one by one the cruisers fell, their explosions lighting the void like suns being born and dying in seconds. The crew on the human ship felt the shift deep in their bones. The battle was no longer survival, no longer fear, it was victory, clear and undeniable. They were not holding on anymore. They were in control. And in that moment, they understood what their captain had known from the start. The trap had never been theirs, it had always belonged to humanity. The alien commander slammed his fist against the chair, sparks flying around him as his ship shook under another impact. "No," he roared. "This cannot be. They are only humans." But even as he shouted, he knew the lie in his words. They were not only humans. They were survivors. They were fighters. They were the nightmare he had never believed possible. Across the battlefield, alien ships broke apart in flames, and the humans advanced step by step, their formation tightening, their weapons locking with perfect precision. It was the turning point, the moment when battle became execution, when hunters became the hunted, when the galaxy's lie, that humans would always bow, was shattered in fire and silence. The alien commander stared into the void, his pride gone, his strength broken, and for the first time in his long career of conquest, he felt not anger but helplessness. The humans had taken everything from him in this battle. His fleet, his pride, his certainty. And as his ship trembled again, systems failing, crews shouting in terror, he realized the truth that chilled him deeper than death itself. The galaxy would hear of this. The galaxy would know. The humans had turned the tide, and nothing would ever be the same again. The alien commander's ship trembled under another blast, alarms screamed, fires burned across his bridge, and yet he refused to surrender, his pride burning even as his fleet died around him. He had spent his life conquering, crushing enemies without mercy, and he could not accept that it would all end here, undone by humans he had once thought weak. His officers looked at him with fear in their eyes, waiting for orders, some whispering of retreat, but he slammed his claw against the armrest and roared, "No retreat! We will not run like cowards. If we fall with teeth bared." His words shook the crew, filling them with a fleeting spark of courage, but deep inside they knew it was desperation, not strength, that drove him now. Around the battlefield, what remained of his fleet burned, shattered wrecks drifting through the void, cries of panic echoing across comms as survivors begged for aid, but there was no aid to give. The humans pressed forward with cold precision, their weapons cutting through every formation, every attempt to regroup, their fleet unstoppable now that the turning point had been reached. Still the commander would not yield. His eyes locked on the human flagship at the center of the formation, the ship that had lured him here, the ship that had destroyed his pride, and hatred filled his chest like fire. "Ram them," he snarled. His officers froze, shocked. "Commander, you mean—" "Yes," he roared, his voice trembling with fury. "If our weapons cannot break them, then we will use our bodies. We will strike their heart and tear it apart, even if it costs us our lives." His ship turned sharply, engines screaming as they poured every drop of power into thrust. The massive vessel surged forward, shields crackling, weapons firing wildly as it aimed itself like a spear at the human flagship. Across the fleet, a few surviving alien ships followed his desperate order, charging recklessly, their captains too broken by fear to think of survival. It was madness, a suicidal gamble, but desperation leaves no reason, only fire. On the human bridge, alarms flared as sensors picked up the incoming charge. Officers called out warnings, their voices urgent, their eyes wide. Multiple ships accelerating, direct course. "They're going to ram." For the first time, even the human crew felt a shadow of fear, for if the enemy reached them, if even one massive vessel struck their flagship, the damage would be devastating. But the captain did not flinch. His eyes locked on the charging ships, and his voice cut through the storm. "So this is their last move," he said softly, almost to himself. Then he turned, his voice rising with command. "Prepare the countermeasure. They wish to see our true weapon. Let them see it." Deep inside the human flagship, hidden systems powered up, systems never meant to be used lightly, weapons so advanced that even most of the crew had only heard rumors of them. Panels slid open, and a strange energy began to build, humming with a sound that shook through the decks, making the air vibrate. The alien commander saw it too late, his sensors screaming as they detected an energy signature unlike anything recorded before. His eyes widened, his fury flickering into horror, but by then he was too close to stop. The human ship unleashed its hidden weapon. A blinding wave of light burst outward, not fire, not beam, but pure disruption, a surge that reached into the charging alien vessels and tore at their very cores. Shields collapsed instantly, engines overloaded, hulls cracked as if the universe itself had turned against them. The commander's ship shook violently, its systems dying all at once, alarms exploding across his bridge as power failed. His officers screamed, his crew fell from their stations, and he realized in that instant that his desperate gamble had only sped his death. His ship, along with those that followed, split apart under the terrible wave, their burning hulks scattering into the void before they could ever touch the human flagship. On the human bridge, Silence fell for a moment as the light faded, broken only by the steady hum of systems powering down from the great release. The crew stared in awe at the wreckage drifting outside, the remnants of what had once been the enemy's pride. The captain's face remained cold, his eyes hard. "Desperation always shows the truth," he said quietly. "They never fought for victory. They only fought to escape fear. And fear cannot win against us." His crew lowered their heads in respect, understanding the weight of his words. Across the battlefield, the few remaining alien ships faltered, their courage gone, their last hope destroyed. They had seen their commander's desperate charge end in ashes, and now they knew it was over. The humans had revealed a weapon beyond anything they had imagined, and with it they had crushed even desperation itself. The battlefield had become a graveyard of metal and fire, the stars hidden behind drifting wrecks, the silence broken only by the thunder of distant explosions as the last fragments of the alien fleet burned away, and still the human ships moved forward like shadows of judgment, precise and unstoppable. The alien commander's ship was gone, his desperate charge shattered by the hidden human weapon, and with his fall the will of the remaining enemy shattered as well. Scattered ships floated aimlessly, some trying to flee, others frozen in panic, their crews too broken to fight. On the human bridge, the captain's eyes scanned the debris-filled void with calm focus, his voice steady as he gave the order that would end it. "No survivors," he said. "Every hostile must be silenced. Leave no weapon behind to rise against us again." His crew did not question him, for they understood the necessity. Mercy here would only plant seeds for another war, and humanity had no room for weakness. The fleet shifted, forming a tight net, their weapons locking on every remaining target. One by one the alien vessels vanished under streams of fire, their hulls ripped apart, their screams echoing briefly across comms before vanishing into silence. Some begged for surrender, others cried for mercy, but the humans showed none, their guns merciless, their strikes deliberate. It was not cruelty, it was survival, a message written in fire across the void. Humanity could not be broken, humanity would not be prey. The alien crews realized the truth too late. They had once thought humans weak, easy to conquer, a species that would bow under fear, but here in this battle they had discovered the nightmare behind that lie. Humanity fought not for glory, not for conquest, but for existence, and that made them more dangerous than any empire. Desperation drove some alien captains to turn their ships and run, engines screaming as they fled into the darkness, but even there the humans gave no quarter. Pursuers broke off, chasing them down with ruthless efficiency, their shots precise, their hunts swift. One by one the fleeing vessels exploded, leaving nothing but silence behind. The few alien ships that tried to fight were crushed instantly, their weapons no match for human precision, their courage drowned beneath the relentless tide. The captain watched it all without a flicker of doubt, his eyes unblinking, his hands steady. To him it was not battle anymore. It was cleansing, the wiping away of a threat that had dared to strike against his people. Around him his crew felt the weight of it, not joy, not triumph, but grim certainty, as if they were not simply destroying an enemy but carving a warning into the fabric of the galaxy itself. Hours passed, though in the chaos it felt like moments, and when at last the guns fell silent, the void was filled only with wreckage, drifting fires, and the ghosts of a fleet that had once been proud. Not a single alien ship remained intact. Not one had escaped. The humans had done as ordered, total obliteration. The captain stood tall on his bridge, his gaze fixed on the endless stars beyond the wreckage. His crew waited, their faces pale but firm, for they knew his words would carry weight beyond this day. He spoke at last, his voice quiet but strong. "Let this battle be remembered. They came to destroy us, but instead they learned the truth. Humanity is no prey. Humanity is the fire in the dark, the hand that strikes back harder than any blow. Let every star carry this warning: if they come for us, we will answer, and the answer will be destruction." The crew bowed their heads, the silence heavy with understanding. Across the fleet, survivors of the human side shared the same thought. They had not only survived, they had sent a message, one written in obliteration, one that would echo across the galaxy. Far away, hidden sensors and watchers from other species recorded the final moments of the battle, their eyes wide with fear as they witnessed what humans had done. Rumors would spread, stories would grow, and soon every empire, every race would know. The attempt to ambush a human vessel had not just failed, it had ended in annihilation. The humans had shown their power, and nothing would ever erase that memory. When the guns fell silent and the battlefield became only drifting wreckage and burning shards, the humans did not cheer, they did not sing, they did not celebrate, for victory here was not a thing of joy but a grim necessity, a line drawn in fire that all who watched would remember, and though the alien fleet was gone, the war was not over, because war never truly ends when fear is planted in the hearts of many. Across the void, far beyond the battle zone, hidden eyes had watched, censors of neutral worlds, spies of rival empires, wanderers who carried news like whispers through the stars, and they all saw what had happened. They saw the alien fleet destroyed to the last ship, they saw the desperate charge crushed, they saw the human weapon unleashed like judgment, and they trembled, because this was no ordinary victory, it was a warning to all. On the human flagship, the captain stood on his bridge surrounded by silence, his crew tired, their faces shadowed with the weight of what they had done. He looked at the wreckage, then turned to his officers. "Transmit the record," he said. His voice was calm, steady, but beneath it there was steel. "Let every world see this. Let them understand what happens when they strike us." His officers nodded and obeyed. Across channels, across networks, across hidden lines of communication, the recording spread. The first ambush, the alien arrogance, the moment of reversal, the desperate charge, the obliteration, every second captured and sent without fear of consequence. Soon the galaxy would know. In the halls of alien empires, rulers watched with wide eyes and clenched jaws, some in anger, some in terror, all in silence, because what they saw was undeniable. The humans had been underestimated, treated as prey, but they had turned and destroyed their hunters completely. On one world, an emperor slammed his fist against a table, roaring that this could not be real, that no young species could defeat such a fleet. On another, a council sat in silence, the light of the recording flickering on their faces as they realized their plans for conquest would never work now. In secret, some even whispered that perhaps humanity was not simply strong, but chosen by something greater, for how else could they rise so fast, so brutally, against odds so high? Meanwhile, among the common people of the galaxy, the story spread faster than any fleet, told in markets, in ports, in shadows of stations. The humans fought back, they whispered, the humans destroyed them all. Fear grew, but so did respect, for many races had known only cruelty from the fallen empire, and now they saw a new power rise in defiance. On the human flagship, the captain watched the stars and spoke quietly, words meant for his crew but carried like a vow to the universe. "They thought we would bow. They thought we would break. But humanity does not break. We endure, we rise, and when struck, we strike back harder than any enemy can imagine. Let this be the message to the galaxy. We are not prey, we are not weak, and if they come for us, then they will face not surrender but fire." His crew stood silent, but inside their hearts burned, for they knew these words would outlive them, carried not only by machines and recordings but by whispers and fear, by legends that grow in the telling. The wreckage of the alien fleet drifted endlessly in the void, a monument to arrogance, a graveyard that would remain for centuries, and travelers who passed would look upon it and remember the day when a human vessel was ambushed, and yet it was not the humans who fell, but those who dared to strike them. Thus the story began its journey, turning into something larger than a battle report, larger than simple war. It became myth, and myths are harder to kill than fleets. In every corner of the galaxy, leaders began to measure their steps more carefully, weighing whether any confrontation with humanity was worth the risk, and in those calculations, fear was the first number. The humans had not sought to be conquerors, yet through survival they had become something greater, a warning and a legend, a new power born not from conquest but from defiance. And so, in the cold silence of space, while wreckage floated and stars burned far away, a single truth spread, unshakable and eternal. The ambush on the human vessel went terribly wrong, and from that wrong came a message that would never be forgotten. Humanity does not surrender, humanity obliterates.